A very warm welcome to Peter Wells, CEO of SmartWires. Welcome to Sweden.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
You're located in the US.
Yes. Yeah, in North Carolina. We just moved actually from Northern California over to North Carolina. We're in a town called Raleigh. And Raleigh-Durham is actually great for us because it's known for its research triangle and has great schools, great universities, lots of electrical engineering talent. And for our industry, smart grid, there's quite a few companies there. So it's a good place for us to be because we're in a good little, I would say, there's a nucleus of good things happening that we can tap into.
You got listed on Stockholm NASDAQ First North. Yeah. In
May 18th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why did you choose Sweden?
Yeah. Mainly because we love Stockholm. No, we do like Stockholm, but there is some fundamental reasons why we did that. So first of all, if you look at the NASDAQ market in Stockholm in general, there's a lot of good institutional investors that invest in companies that are working on environmental issues and societal issues in a really genuine way, I would say. They really understand the issues there. They invest for medium long term, so they're not looking like a hedge fund to invest and flip. And so we found that sort of relationship between a company that is new and growing in a space that's really important and sort of having longer term partnership with investors was really important. We also realized that as a small company, there are some markets where you don't fit so well. So NASDAQ First North, for being small to mid cap, was a good fit for us. We're very active in Europe anyway, so we're global, even though we're US based. We do a lot of work in South America, a lot of work in Europe. We're in Australia. We're going to move into Canada here next year, I think, in a big way. So really, yeah, that mix of investors, awareness of the issues and the space that we're in, and with where we were as a company would just seem like a good fit. Yeah.
So let's focus on what you do, because you are a global grid company, and grids, do we say grids or grid?
Say grid or grids? Yeah, grids. Either works.
It is an important part of the whole energy transition puzzle. Could you please explain why?
Yeah, so in really simple terms, as we go for energy transition, some fundamental things are changing in terms of how we generate electricity and also how it's being used. So as we phase out coal plants and nuclear plants and maybe move to less use of gas, the physical location of where that energy was being generated is changing. And the grid, especially at transmission level and into distribution, is a fixed asset. And so when you move, and let's say you phase out those coal plants and nuclear, and you say we're going to bring more renewable energy onto the grid, they're not in the same place. They're in often remote locations because it's stronger wind, or they're offshore, or solar can also be in very different locations. So that introduces some real complexity to the grid operators, especially on transmission, which is where we're focused at the moment. So when they have these renewable assets, they need to find new grid connections. Sometimes the grid can't take that new power flow because it's not big enough. Or sometimes it can take it only up to a certain point, and then it has to, we say, curtail, so reduce the output from those renewable plants, or sometimes even stop it altogether because it cannot take that power flow. And that actually is really bad news for the consumer, because now you're going back to the fossil plants to start them up to run them because the demand is still there. And the consumer at the end of the day pays the price for that. You pay it in terms of what it does to the environment, but also utilities can recover that cost through electricity prices. So you pay both financially and also in terms of impact on the environment. So that's the big thing. And then on the distribution side, we see sector coupling, we see electrification of transportation, industrial process. So all of these changes, and I would say we're only just beginning to see what that means. It's going to change and change and change. And I think in a similar way that telecoms did after 2000. And so grid operators need to digitalize the grid, right? And to use power electronics in order to be more real time, understanding what's happening, what's being generated where, and where it needs to go, and how we get the best utilization of those assets. So that's why this change is so big, and that's exactly the space that we're in.
So now we know why you decided to list on here in Sweden, and what grids does to the whole world. Could you describe your business model and how you work with all this?
Yeah, so we've started really more, as I said, in the horizontal grid, the transmission layer, mainly because all the bottlenecks are there, and if we don't fix that, it doesn't really matter how much innovation we do on lower voltage, closer to the consumer, because the main green electrons you want are not coming. So we started there. We have a product that we call a smart valve. It's a large box, so 5 meters by 2 meters by 2 meters. It's got power electronics inside there. Basically, we're able to generate some electricity, a little bit of voltage and current. We can inject that onto the lines, but we can inject it in a way that either is ahead or behind the natural cycle and flow that's on that line. When we do that, we change the resistance on the line. And basically, lines with more resistance take less. Lines with less resistance take more. And so we're able to play with that. And in so doing, we can make sure that lines that perhaps say overloaded, we can push power flow off of that onto lines that are being underused. Without that, when that main line gets, let's say, to capacity, everything stops. So we're able to keep everything going. And so our business model is to introduce this technology really on a platform adoption, so all across the grid globally, to give transmission system operators the ability to modernize.
And what is your typical clients?
So big TSOs, yeah. So system operators, utilities. So you would see them all across Europe in every country that you're in. One of our major customers today is National Grid in the UK. We work with a TSO in South America called ESA. And so these are companies that basically install and operate the transmission grid and then recover that through rates that they're allowed to apply to the consumers.
And let's talk some financials.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
We're doing okay. We did 15 million of revenue last year, so small, but we'll be probably 3 times that this year. So we thought coming into the year we'd be roughly in that range. So it looks like we're on track. We definitely had, I would say, a challenging second quarter and third quarter. We've been really challenged by the supply chain globally, like many people are. It's not getting a whole lot better, to be honest with you. And we're seeing now, for example, rolling brownouts in China where suppliers are working 1 day a week because they can't get the power they need to operate. So we've definitely had some impacts there. But I think in fourth quarter, we're very confident we've got a really good sort of backlog and we're producing now. And so we should be on target. So 3x up this year. We haven't done much more guidance than that. So our next release will be November 18th.
Because that was my follow-up question. But
yeah. So in the November 18th earnings release, we'll obviously talk about third quarter, but we'll also give guidance for the year. And then our annual report will come out in Q1, and then we'll see. There's always debate around what to do on guidance, but I think there's some good direction that we can give to people in terms of where we think we go next year, which will be significantly up again on revenue.
Okay, but we don't have to talk about guidance, but what is your mission and vision and bigger goals?
So midterm, so if we say 2025, 2026, our goals initially were to be several hundred million of revenue a year. So certainly up above 500 million. We think there's line of sight to above that. I would say strategically, at the moment, I actually personally think there's going to be so much interaction between the horizontal transmission grid and the vertical distribution that on that edge is going to be a really interesting place because things will deregulate more. TSOs are becoming distribution system operators and vice versa. So I think there's some really interesting ways we can apply our technology there as well. And then beyond that, we think that there is the application of the technology as we have it today as a project, right, sort of a product-based business. We also see that we can move to asset integration to help different utilities and even big consumers, big industrial users, tech giants, the consumer, sort of really evolve and do what they want to do and get the energy, the type of energy they want. And so beyond the asset integration, we then think there's going to be a big installed base of our technology, which means then how do you look at the data? How do you analyze it? How do you optimize? And really, I think markets will change, like how they operate, how they make money will change. And so we have a huge opportunity, I think, to progress like products to asset integration to services. So I would say as we progress towards midterm, much, much bigger revenues with very significant opportunity to be even twice as big as that over time and in more of an annuity-based revenue model.
And are you planning to grow in new markets or existing markets?
Yeah. So we're very focused at the moment on Europe, US, but actually we're further advanced in South America. The way they run competition there actually enables our product better. Canada there's a strong part of our pipeline that's emerging in Canada. Australia we're already working in. We expect that to grow as well. And then we have some thoughts around, I would say, the rest of the Asia Pacific, Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, Thailand. There's some interesting markets that we begin to explore and think about. But near term, I think it will be South America, Europe, and then North America.
Exciting.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thanks for doing it.